August 2023, Nasty NECKFACE presents NECKFACE in New York, a video by Angel and Z Radio, now available on our Patreon. The full video features NECKFACE bombing Manhattan from daytime to nighttime in an absolutely brutalizing fashion during the summer of 2023. NECKFACE in New York documents NECKFACE's violent graffiti campaign through Midtown and the Lower East Side, now available on our Patreon. We've also released an episode onto our Patreon with King Baby. The full episode runs 1 hour long as King Baby speaks on homelessness, living in a walk-in closet in San Francisco, graffiti in New York City, music, life problems, and more. Lastly, we're releasing an extremely limited surprise bonus product with Set KRT. It will be released later in the month of August and will be sent to our Patreon members on a first-come first-served basis. NECKFACE in New York, King Baby episode and limited Set KRT product are available for the month of August 2023 through our Patreon. Members gain access to our episode and content library with interviews, documentary-style videos, bombing projects, and more. Including projects from Jedi 5, Rehab Iraq, Ichabod the Rail God, zines, art prints, Living Proof magazine, All We Got Is S2, and much more.
Angel and Z Radio is a show brought to you by the wonderful people at Art Primo. A graffiti shop like no other that has been proudly serving the community for decades from New York to Seattle and beyond. They have everything you need, and you probably need everything they have. Mops, paint, inks, sketchbooks, stickers, bags, and much, much more. Believe me, you will not want to miss this. artprimo.com.
Hello, no one is available to take your call. Please leave a message after the tone.
Hey, Tim, this is Mark, your landlord. You know why I'm calling. I need my money, need the rent. You got it taken care of.
Hi, baby. I'm just calling to say hi. I hope you're having fun. I miss you, so call me when you get a chance. Okay.
Yo, Tim, it's cracking, yo. Hit me, bro. Are you back? Trying to also see, man, like, think you can hit me, like, maybe let me, spot me on this month's rent. I'm kind of short, but you know I got you, bro. Hit me up, man. We gonna go out and get faded tonight, man. Hit me, bro. Holler.
Yo, Tim, what's up, man? How's the trip going? Come here to me, bud. I'm gonna have to get myself in a spot of bother with some fucking bogies. I might need a land of an L bag off you if you don't mind. Get back to me, bud, yeah?
Yo, Tim, how are you? I'm fucking waiting for you, bro. Oh, that's crazy. Aquí te esperamos, loco.
Tim, what's up? It's me. We closed the deal. Both pieces sold, 50 each. Collectors in Miami love it. I'll hit you back soon. The wire's on the way. Peace.
Hello, Tim, where the fuck you at? I've been calling you. You got a bitch on your story. You wildin' out. Who is she? Does she know you have a girlfriend? You better not fucking play yourself, because you're coming home to me. So call me.
Hey, Tim, it's Mom. Just wondering how you're doing, and just wanted to tell you I miss you, and I hope everything is well. I love you.
I'm a traveling man, made a lot of stops all over the world.
You're leaving San Francisco.
Yeah.
How come?
It's over. The scene sucks. There's no art scene anymore. There's just dope fiends everywhere. And it's too expensive, and you don't get what you pay for at all. And I mean, that city used to be everything to me, but now it's like it's become like a wasteland. Depressing. I mean, I guess what I could say the most is it's uninspiring. I'm not inspired there anymore. I've done everything, and I'm not everything, but it's like I've done everything that I was interested in doing there, and it's not cultivating my artistic expression anymore, you know?
When you say it's uninspiring, you mean it's uninspiring for you on some graffiti shit, or on some art shit, or just on some life shit?
Everything, all that. It's just a lot of people left too, you know? Yeah. A lot of my friends have kids, or, you know, careers, or they're dead, or You know, they just they moved on, and I feel like if I just stay there, I'm just gonna like waste away, and you know, wake up and be 60 and be like, what did I do? Why didn't I just go try to do something else? I've been all over the world, and there's so many better places than San Francisco. It's a beautiful city, great weather, but it's over, dude.
How long have you lived there?
Oh man, I mean, I moved to San Francisco from Ireland. I was born in Ireland and moved to San Francisco when I was a kid, like 6 or something, and then grew up there. And then my parents broke up, and one of them moved to Oakland, the other one stayed in Frisco. And so I've been back and forth between Oakland and Frisco my whole life. I lived in San Francisco from like 86 to 93, 4, and then I lived in Oakland. I went to Oakland High, and then I went back to San Francisco to go to SF State in like 2000. And then I lived there until 2007, and then I moved to Taiwan for 3 years. And then I moved back to the Bay, but I moved to Oakland in 2010. And then I lived there for a while until 2015. My warehouse that I lived in burned down. And yeah, my friend one of my good friends who lived down the hall, he fell asleep with a cigarette and burned the whole fucking building down. And I lost everything. I literally like ran out the burning building with my cat and some money and my computer and some cameras in a backpack. And then after that, I moved back to Frisco and lived there for, I still live there. So 2015, I've been there since then. And yeah, so
so it's been a while.
It's been my, Frisco's my whole life. It's like everything to me.
Well, you say it's dead now, or it's over now. What exactly does that mean? How has it changed from the San Francisco that you kind of came up into what it is today? What is so different about it?
I mean, dude, it used to be a cultural mecca for art and music and culture and everything, man. It used to be this, people went there for that, it had this vibe, the hippies, everything. Everyone went there to, be an artist or, be who they wanted to be. And it's just turned into this, like, you're either like a techie or you're a dope fiend. There's not a lot of people in between, and a lot of people trying to do creative stuff there are just, they can't even afford it. They can't, there's no market. Techies don't buy art, dope fiends don't buy art, and there's no community left, I feel like. I mean, it's like, these are black and white statements. It's not extreme like that, but for me, it's like there's no opportunities there, I don't think, for someone like me. I've outgrown it completely, and I need to get out of there before I just disintegrate or something bad happens,
So when you left before, when you went to Taiwan, what was the reasoning for it? Was it kind of the same thing?
Yeah. It was like George Bush was president and America was whack. I was just like over America. I was over the Bay. This is before the techies came. It was like whatever, yuppies or whatever. It was like, this was like the beginning of San Francisco's kind of demise, And I just wanted to go see what the world was like. I wanted to go see what would happen to me if I put myself in an environment that I knew nothing about. And my friend Czech was living in Taiwan, and he kept telling me to come out there because he could do whatever he wanted, basically. And I wanted to go somewhere where I could do graffiti and not have to worry about getting my life ruined. So I went out there, and it changed everything forever.
What years was that in?
2007 to 10.
Are they still that chill with graph?
It's pretty chill, yeah. I mean, it's not like it used to be.
So when you went, what would happen if you get back?
Nothing. You just say you're sorry.
So you went out there, and what was your living situation like? Would you bring with you, like, that's kind of a giant uprooting. You go to a place where you don't even speak their native language.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up learning Chinese after a number of years, and then after I moved back from Taiwan in 2010, I still had a place out there, so I would go back and forth for a decade, basically. It was like I had two lives, kind of.
Mm-hmm. How did going out there affect your graph and the way you approach bombing?
I just made it like I wasn't afraid, you know, so I could experiment, and it was fun because you could basically just like hang out and party with your friends and paint and not have to worry about going to jail or getting arrested or dealing with any weirdos, or, you know what I mean? It was like a peaceful graffiti environment, and I liked that. And I mean, there was tons of abandoned buildings, and like the city was always changing. There was always like new pits opening up, and you could get away with the craziest shit, you know, and then it would just run forever. You know, like a lot of shit would just run until the building got knocked down, or like, you know, it's not like, and there was like so few people doing graffiti that there wasn't no competition, you know.
What was the inspiration though to paint out there if there's not that many people doing graph, assuming there's no real scene?
I didn't want a scene. I wanted just a place to go do whatever I wanted, you know. It was like a free for all. And I feel like it was like a chance to go be a part of something that was new, you know? Like it was like a chance to go build a scene instead of trying to be part of a scene, you know?
Yeah, more of like an original take.
Yeah, and it was like a lot of people weren't traveling around the world back then doing graffiti. I mean, there was people doing it for sure, but it wasn't like, I feel like that's the thing now, you know, you want to go all world, or, you know, there's so many people like graffiti. I mean, the smartphones didn't exist, the internet was not like it is today, so it was still kind of analog, you know, and like word of mouth, or, you know, you knew somebody in this country or you knew somebody in this city, and they'd give you their phone number and you'd go call them and go paint with them, and that's how the friendship was forged, you know. It wasn't a DM or whatever it is now, you know.
Yeah, well, what do you think about that?
About what?
Just the new modern approach to doing shit. Everyone has everybody's number via Instagram DM. Graffiti is just drastically, I mean, you could say it's drastically more accepted now than it's ever been before, because pretty much seemingly is more accepted now than it has been before, whether you're talking about fashion, whether you're talking about even just fine art and acceptance of graffiti writers as some of them as legitimate fine artists once they transition, that even being an accepted path within graffiti, depending on who does it, shit like that. And a lot of it is intertwined with the fact that we all have smartphones that, you know, make this a global thing. It's a real like globalization to the point where it's not even like, that might not even be the right word for it, but what do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's good and it's bad, you know? Like, back in the day before all this shit happened, it was like, it was more organic, you know? You'd meet people just wandering around by yourself, you know? It wasn't very contrived like it is now. I feel like that was when graffiti was more natural, the natural art form. And it was also still a secret. You know, it was like graffiti started by just kids painting on stuff, you know, and like the only way you had access to the knowledge was through word of mouth and talking to people and older, you know, like the culture. There was still a culture. I feel like the internet just like ruined the culture of graffiti, and it like diluted everything, you know. It used to just be word of mouth, and the knowledge was passed down orally. Like, I couldn't access any of the knowledge of graffiti when I was a kid. I was like scraping to figure out what this was, you know. The only time I could find anything out about who was who or where to get caps or supplies or anything was talking to somebody, you know. And like it was older people, you know. So like the the hierarchy of graffiti still existed, where it's like you respected your elders because they had the knowledge, and now kids just don't respect. I feel like there's a loss of respect, because everyone has a fucking smartphone. So you can access all of the knowledge. You can access any of the people. You have access to everybody. You're not secret anymore. You're not underground. You're not, you can't be anonymous anymore. I mean, that's the whole point of graffiti. It's like the dichotomy of being anonymous and not being anonymous. You're known, but you're not known. And now it's like, it's a free-for-all, So it's like, that takes kind of the challenge out of it in a lot of ways. But it also, opens the door up to a whole world of people doing the same thing that you're doing, and you can access them and communicate with them and make more friends. And that's a cool aspect of it that I like. I could go to any country and tap in with some people on the internet and make some friends and paint. And it's easier than just kind of wandering around and hoping that I meet somebody, or maybe I don't. I'm just there by myself the whole time painting and never meet anybody. And now it's like it's blown out of proportion, but there's good and there's bad in that.
Yeah, now it's kind of just to the extreme level.
Yeah, it's like,
because before, I guess you mentioned in this writing like style wars, because that's just that is media, but it's not on a wicked crazy extreme level of mass consumption and instantaneous feedback and just everyone can, what I mean? It's it's more tamed and more, in my opinion, probably more valid. You know what I mean?
Valid how? Valid
in the sense that so everyone has an iPhone, everyone has Instagram, everyone has social media, everyone has access to make a YouTube channel or make a Twitter or whatever. And so everyone becomes in a way their own author. Whereas before, to make, I don't know, to make Style Wars or to make any real production like that would get seen by a lot of people, there would probably have to be a lot of thought put into it, a lot of work put into it, a lot of skill, a lot of art put into it, a lot of things put into it. It's not just a pick up your phone and film a 15-second clip and then boom, that's it. Tons of people see it. Whereas that is what it is now. And when you think about it that way, yeah, there's no doubt that it's going to dilute the scene and dilute with what graffiti is and dilute. I've been writing into graffiti for probably much less time than you have. And I myself have seen, observed this phenomenon that we're talking about. I don't know. So where does that make? Where do you stand in that? Seeing as you've been writing for quite a long time, does that shit just make you not even want to pick up a can?
No, I'm just trying to keep up. The progression. I'm glad. I'm just happy to be a part of this scene, this culture, and the history of it at this point. Contributing to this, and seeing where it's going to go is very interesting, and seeing where it's come from. The evolution of graffiti being this underground thing that no one. It was this secret little club of kids painting on shit, and then the culture started building and growing, and it actually, it started out on trains. It started out on caves, but then the real culture of graffiti started in New York City and on the trains, and then it went, when that got shut down, it evolved and went to the streets, and then it became illegal, and then it kept evolving, and then I still, capitalism plays a huge part in every kind of culture nowadays, especially how everything's been blown out by smartphones and the internet and social media and apps and blah blah blah. It's the evolution of graffiti has evolved and has been taken over by capitalism in a sense. You couldn't buy graffiti supplies, and now you can monetize content and get paid by YouTube. It's everything involving most popular culture gets consumed by capitalism or overwhelmed by or taken over by capitalism, and that's interesting and depressing, but it's also inspiring because now you can make money off graffiti, and that's cool. I support anyone making money off graffiti or art in that, for that matter. If you can make if you can make a life out of graffiti or art, like, you're hacking the whole system. And that was not possible back in the day, you know?
Yeah.
So
no, you're hacking the system.
You're hacking the system. If you can be an artist and make money, you are hacking life. And that's inspiring.
Why do you feel that that's hacking life?
Because artists are an essential part of society, of humanity, you know? Like art, science, math, those are science basically is math, but it's like art and science are the only things that are like catapulting us forward in life. And it's funny how both of those things are not valued as much as they should be. But art, for one, you know, it's a hack because you're not part of the system, but you're necessary. So, and if you're an artist and you can get away with making whatever you want, you're free. You don't have a boss, you don't have to do what you don't want, you get to make what you want and you get paid. You don't have a 9 to 5, you don't have you make up your whole schedule, you're free.
You're less of a wage slave.
You're not a slave, you're completely hacking everything. And people love you and you get paid, and you know, everyone there's all these stereotypes of artists, you know, like the starving artist or the depressed artist or the broke artist, you know, like, but I that's all just made up, you know. It's like you can be rich and be an artist. You can be paid and be an artist, and that's the ultimate hack, or doing the stock market, you know, or being a complete criminal. You know, those are the only hacks I've thought of in life that you don't have to participate, but society needs you, you know. So you're like a free radical floating through society, and you don't have to ever play by the rules.
Yeah. In terms of capitalism, you also were saying that why is graffiti illegal? Because of capitalism. Why do you think that?
I mean, if graffiti was legal, like Coca-Cola would be the most running, you know? Like, it's illegal because of capitalism, because they don't want you to be able to advertise for free. That's what basically graffiti is. You're advertising yourself for free. You're not paying anybody, and you're promoting yourself for free. And most people are doing it not in hopes to make money. They're just doing it to do it. And that's the beauty of graffiti. It's like the freest, most expressive art form that there is, because there's no intentions of making money behind it. And that's something beautiful about graffiti that I love. But nowadays with the phone, you know, the internet and the phones, like, you could make a bunch of money doing graffiti, and that's cool, you know. Like, I respect that, and I'd like to do that, you know.
Yeah. We're kind of at like a point that I see, at least, that the world outside of like just actual graffiti culture is starting to become a bit more aware day by day, or maybe even a lot more aware day by day of how ill some writers are and how ill their lifestyles are, how ill their culture is. Whereas before it was kind of like maybe an unknown thing, now you can see straight up like companies like the NECKFACE paying the writers who racked their shit for years to talk about in a commercial how they would rack their shit for years.
That's really happened?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, or you see like Adidas doing stuff with graffiti, and that's just like a small example. There's like tons of it. Or, you know, I think that even people in like the gallery world are becoming aware of like, oh, this dude came from this background. This is actually extremely ill, and actually iller than a lot of these other people having this gallery show. And in terms of you and your art and your practice in doing that, what do you think about that? Do you associate your work, meaning your art, with your years painting graffiti? Do you want there to be a connection, or do you want there to be a separation?
I feel like inadvertently my work comes from graffiti, the graffiti lifestyle that I've lived, you know? Like, I don't try to sell artwork or promote artwork that's just graffiti. I don't think that that's interesting. And I feel like graffiti should just stay where it belongs, you know? But I feel like the way I've lived my life, where graffiti was basically like the vehicle for me to like travel. Like I used graffiti as my vehicle to travel around the world and paint graffiti, you know, and like through that process I met so many people, and then the whole time I was doing this I was always taking so many pictures. A lot of my work comes from photography. My dad was a photographer and he showed me how to take pictures and all that stuff, and I used photography for reference for my paintings and my work and illustrations and stuff. So yeah, graffiti is a big part of my work, but it's not in your face, you know? It's a part of the narrative where it's like I make work based on my experiences, and my experiences have to do with graffiti, but the work doesn't necessarily portray the graffiti up front, you know? It's like the work is a byproduct of doing graffiti, but I'm not trying to sell graffiti in that sense, you know? It's like I had a, you know, I for the past 15 years I've been kind of traveling around doing graffiti, but my work doesn't really have to do with graffiti. There are references to graffiti in it, but it's not about graffiti. But I do another, what you said earlier about how it's accepted now. It's like that's amazing to me, how, you know, graffiti started as this thing where it was like completely like, you know, the baby boomers, what, they're like in their 70s now, you know, like they grew up on graffiti. They were the first generation to like start doing that shit, you know, and they're dying now. So it's like every generation after them has grew up on graffiti. It's been a part of their environment. It's been a part of media, everything. It's been in their face for their whole life. And now that generation, my generation, or Gen X or whatever, like, I guess I'm a millennial. I was born in 82, so I'm like a first generation millennial or whatever, but it's like Gen X is kind of taking over power of the world now, and they have had graffiti in their life for the whole time they've been alive. So it's like the notion of like the old guy seeing you tagging and being like, hey, that's fucking illegal, you can't do that. Like, those people are gonna be dead soon, you know? So that's really interesting to see how graffiti is going to become a part of the whole collective consciousness of everyone on Earth, you know? Like, there's going to be no one alive in a few years that didn't have graffiti in their life for their entire life. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's going to play a major role in the acceptance of graffiti, like you said, into the fine art world, and as being like a viable art form that's respected and revered. And I think that's really important.
I mean, it's either that or the total snuffing out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's coming too with technology.
Yeah, you were saying how you think that you know, like, everything's been done. The conversation of graffiti is over. All the songs have been written. It's all been done. So where does the art form go from here? Is there still room left for something new? Do you think there is? Because the way I see it right now, a lot of people are doing just an interpretation, like kind of an abstraction of what was.
It's a sample. It's like, yeah, like I mean, I feel like that's kind of like what's happening to humanity in a whole. Like, we've sung all the songs, we've made all the music, we've painted all the pictures, you know, like, we've done everything there is to do at this point. And the only thing that's new is technology, AI, like virtual reality, like that type of stuff. That's the only thing that's unexplored. And I mean, I know there's a million things that we haven't done yet, but I still kind of don't believe that, you know, like graffiti in itself, it's like, it's all the names have been picked, you know, like all the throw-ups have been done, all the pieces have been painted. Like, yeah, there's new veins of that to explore, but I feel like they're few and far between, you know. And it's like, yeah, like graffiti it's like a part of it is played out, like, you know, it's generic, like you said, like people are just doing renditions of shit they saw before because of the internet. That's another factor the internet had on it. It just homogenized everything, you know. And it's like, I used to find it so exciting, just walking around New York,
roughly like 2011, 2012, 2013 era, and seeing people from Japan up, and seeing people from Philly up, and then seeing people from Seattle up, and just knowing that, like, holy shit, like, all of these people are in this one spot from all these cities, all bringing their own, what I considered, I was younger, so maybe I was even, blinded to whatever, but like, I was like, yo, all their fresh, like, original style. This is really sick. This is very inspiring. This person's actually from Japan. This person's actually from Taiwan. This person's actually from wherever, and they're all on this 3-block radius. And that still happens to an extent, but it's like, perhaps it just comes with like living a little bit more time. But it's like, are they doing them as like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like I said, like, if it's almost like you're just trying to redo what was done. You're not writing your own original song. You're not like writing that, like some jazz for the first time. You're just trying to redo some John Coltrane or something like that. Make a song that's kind of similar, but you're not making this. And to me, that's less, honestly, inspiring.
I mean, I feel like that's the art form dying, where it's like, what's new? Are you really expressing yourself, or are you just kind of like trying to imitate things and like proving to yourself that you can imitate it and you can do it, but it's still not as original as it used to be, because 20 years ago there was still so much to be explored, and people were finding out new things to exploit and explore. And now I just, you see so much graffiti and it's just generic, I
mean, there's a template.
Exactly. There's a template, and that's because of the internet, I feel like, like I remember being a kid and like not wanting to look at the magazines because I didn't want to copy shit, like I was copying, like I learned how to draw by just copying comic books, but like I was just drawing them in my little notebook at my house, and no one would ever see them, but when you do graffiti, like everyone's seeing it, you're kind of projecting your personality to the world, and like if it's not original, like what are you really projecting? And then another reason I think that graffiti is dying, or it's going to die, is that the influx of technology. See cameras, and I just read in New York, the Amazon and the NYPD are doing that collab with the Ring cameras, where they're just going to integrate the database of, like, facial recognition is going to be incorporated into the public cameras. So if you have a warrant and you try to go into a store and buy some shit, like the police will be alerted, or you try to get on the subway and like your face pops up, like they'll, it's like that is going to be the downfall of graffiti. And it's all
other things,
and and so much other crime, where it's like the anonymity is being snuffed out, privacy is being snuffed out by technology, and that's gonna suck. But also be interesting to see how graffiti adapts to that, and how graffiti evolves because of that, and where is it going to go from here? I mean, that's one of the reasons why I like traveling so much, is because you can go to places where it's like, A, they don't really know what graffiti is, so it's not deemed as bad, and B, there's not a lot of technology in a lot of other places if you're not traveling to like major metropolises, like I'm painting in all types of different countries in Southeast Asia, or South America, or not really South America, mostly just Asia, like, or we'd be painting and we thought we were doing something kind of hot, and then like the people would come out and like give us beers and shit and ask if they could watch, and we're like painting the side of their building, but they thought it was cool, they didn't think it was bad. And like that was something that was really cute, because I thought just because I'm so programmed to think that graffiti's bad, people don't like it, blah blah blah, like, if you take away all the laws and the stereotypes, you're not really doing that, you're not really doing something hella bad. You're applying paint to a surface, And most people enjoy that because they would say like, oh, how much are you getting paid? And we were like, we're not getting paid. We're just doing this for free and for fun. And they thought that was cool. And that's something that I like about traveling and graffiti. It's like graffiti's not that bad in other places.
Yeah.
You know?
They just don't have the same conception of it.
Yeah, there's nothing surrounding it negative because there's not enough of it for them to even know what it is, you know?
Yeah. And eventually that will change in all places as this thing spread. And it's like the Detroit thing, you know? It's like, not that they thought of it that way, but it's like Metropolis for graffiti, too many people go, or too much, you know, crazy amounts of bombing happen, and then boom.
Gets shut. Yeah, I heard Detroit's totally different now.
That's what I've never been, but that's what I've heard as well. I know there was like a crackdown with the mayor, and he did a bunch of stuff, but isn't that just what happens? You know what I mean? It's like same thing with the trains in New York, like got bombed to shit, and then that's it, boom, like you hit your climax, and then you go back down to wherever you were before.
Yeah, graffiti writers are like the fucking Marines. You know, like when you go to a city and like if the city's a complete shithole, or like it's crime infested or just dilapidated as fuck, like the writers go in as like the first wave of Marines and they kind of like make it cool, you know, and then too many writers come and whatever, the city wakes up, and then the artists come because it's still cheap, you know, and they're like the first wave of infantry to come start the gentrification process, whatever you want to call gentrification. I don't really think gentrification is, I mean, it has so many negative connotations, but it's like, you know, after the artists come, then the cool rich people come, you know, and they start pushing the artists out, and then the real rich people come, and then no one can live there anymore. But the lust for coming there all started because of art, and you know, graffiti started the art. You know, It's like I think that's really interesting. And you see that happening
You do.
I mean, you saw it in New York. You know, it's like Detroit, like San Francisco, like so many cities. It happened. The writers came, then the artists came, then the yuppies came, and now it's like techies or supreme rich people, and they feed off the art, you know, which is contradictive, you know, because the artists probably aren't making a lot of money.
Do you still want to bomb at all?
In San Francisco?
Well, just in general, because you were saying that, I'll read it, my metaphor for jumping out of a plane with your friends. When you're young in the graph game, periodically everyone pulls their chute based on what happens to them in life, or their decisions, relationships, families, children, career, drugs, jail, death. But you're still free-falling, waiting for the right time to pull the chute. Pull the chute meaning, I mean, I interpreted that as like get out of any type of graph lifestyle.
No, it's just pulling the chute means that you are choosing you're choosing a path that's healthy and sustainable, because graffiti and that graph life is not sustainable at all. You know, I was talking to a friend about this a year ago or whatever. You know, just thinking about how like when you're young and, you know, teenagers and stuff, you just hang out with your friends and you do graffiti and you party and shit. So it's like I looked at that as like, you know, if you choose that graph life, you kind of jump out of a plane and you're all with your friends and you're like free falling, you know. And then throughout the course of the next 10, 20 years, like someone has a kid, or someone has, you know, gets married and stops doing graffiti, or like they have a career path and they start doing that, and everyone kind of lets go of the graph life slowly, or they die, or they become drug addicts, or they go to jail, or they go crazy, or whatever happens to them. Like, so all these people are like pulling their chutes, whether they want to or not, you know. And like the people that die, they never pull the chute, they just free fall, and or they start falling faster than you know. And I look at my life as like, I haven't, you know, I'm not married, I don't have any kids yet, so I'm still kind of free falling, but I'm definitely not living as crazy as I used to anymore. So I'm just looking for the right time to pull my chute and start living a more sustainable life, whether that's going to be art or a family or some type of crazy business venture, you know what I mean?
So in what ways is the life you live now not sustainable? Like what is not sustainable about it?
I'd rather not talk about
Yeah,
it.
cool. No worries.
Yeah.
So you kind of want to get out of any type of graffiti lifestyle, though. Is pretty much the...
No, I would like to take art. I'm trying to take art way more serious than I ever have at this point in time, because I've been doing it for so long. I just never fully committed to it. You know, I've always had kind of one foot in the door and then one foot out, and now I feel like I've done so much that it's time for me to just start building a different narrative for myself in terms of art. And you know, a lot of my art is like, I guess, reflective of, like, I'm reflecting on the graph life, but I'm not trying to portray the graph life through my art. You know, it's like,
yeah. When did you start really getting into art, and I guess not even taking it more seriously, but just your early beginnings?
I mean, I've always been drawing and stuff as a kid. Like, I was an only child, so I grew up alone, just drawing and reading, you know. But I didn't really take art seriously until, I don't know, maybe like 20 years ago, you know. But then again, I didn't really take it serious. I just realized that I was good at it and that I liked doing it, and that it made me feel alive, and that it was another outlet for myself to like feel alive besides graffiti, you know. Like, it was a more wholesome feeling of like accomplishment that would last, you know. I guess that's what I like about art. It's like I make something and it lasts forever. I mean, nothing lasts forever, but lasts way longer than graffiti. You know, even if you have a photo of it, it's still not there, you know. And like art has bigger ripples than graffiti. You know, someone buys a painting, or you give someone a piece of art and they hang it in their house, and usually people keep that forever. I look at some of the art in my house, and whether it was given to me by a friend, or whether I bought it, or whether it's mine, and I keep bringing these pieces of art with me through every move, you know, and like it becomes like a part of me, you know. And I feel like having art in your life like that is like a more important, and I just want to build on that, having those bigger ripples in other people's lives through art.
Are you looking for a specific audience? Are you looking for a specific message to give across? And if so, what would that be?
I don't know. I mean, I guess that the world's fucked up, you know, but there's still hope, I guess, you know, like optimism, trying to keep it positive. I also don't think that my art really says that quite yet, but sometimes it does.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about the upcoming show in September.
It's at RVCA or RVCA in San Francisco on Haight and Ashbury. It's called Travelin Man, and it's about a bunch of places I've been to and a bunch of people I met. And what I did is I redesigned baggage claim tickets. You know, when you travel and you check your bag, you get that barcode ticket. And I redesigned a bunch of those tickets with like icons and designs based on that city. And then I did a bunch of Sharpie drawings, portraits of people I met in those cities, like people that have become friends of mine that I met in these cities on Earth traveling. And I painted their portraits on the background, and then on top of that I painted the redesigned baggage claim ticket with the barcodes and these little designs and icons that reflect that city. And I did 25 paintings and 25 drawings, and I'm making a book with that. My friend Nico has been a huge help designing everything and building the book, building the show. So I went out to New York with him. I went out there to meet him and his wife, Sugar Bombing. They helped me build the book and design the book, and it's going to be a great show. I'm really excited about it.
When did these ideas first start coming about?
maybe like a year ago, because I've been collecting those baggage claim tickets for like 20 years, you know?
Yeah, why were you collecting those?
I don't know. I just thought they looked cool. And like it was like a little stamp of like, or a little collector's item of like the city that I went to, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I started collecting them all, because I just collect a lot of shit. And I was like, I'm going to use these one day for something. And I just kept collecting them, and then I got kind of obsessive about it, and I would ask, you know, every time someone would come to my house with a bag, I would take their baggage claim ticket, and I just kept amassing them. And I have thousands of them now, like thousands. And I wanted to come up with a way to use those for a show. And it's like the last show I did at RVCA was about San Francisco people. You know, it was based entirely on San Francisco iconic people on bus tickets, where it was just like, it was a bus transfer from Frisco with their name written on the top and their birthday as the date. And it was like a bunch of people that kind of, you know, inspired San Francisco over the last 100 years. But it was just super localized, you know. So this show is a evolution of that idea, basically, and like going from one city and then going to the whole world. And I feel like that's kind of a metaphor for what I'd like to do, just like leaving San Francisco and going and doing something else, you know. It's a big world out there, dude. There's a lot to see. It's like I don't see the point in staying in one space, one spot, one city.
Where do you plan on going?
I don't know. I think I'm going to move to New York or back to Asia, but...
Oh, so you would go back to Asia?
Maybe. No, I think New York is the best place to be as an artist.
Even with the price of rent and the cost of living?
I mean, you get what you pay for, dude, you know? Like, you don't get what you pay for in San Francisco at all. Should be closing at like 8 o'clock, and I'm like, what the fuck? You know? Like, seriously.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if you bought a fucking $4 million Victorian home and you walk out of your crib at 8:30 and you go to some restaurant down the street and they're like, the kitchen's closed. Like, I'd be hella mad, you know? I am hella mad. I don't want to live there anymore. There's like, there's nothing there for people like me. If you're, you know, someone that likes to be on their computer all day and you sit at home and you order food, like, it's cool.
You've mentioned the techies a few times. I don't really know shit about that. I know that I guess SF is a tech hub. I guess people move there for work or whatever. That's as far as my understanding goes. Like, how has that affected SF this much?
Dude, I don't want to like talk shit about them, you know, because they have their place, but I don't know. It's just they like, it's like a vacuum. They I feel like they suck up the culture and don't give anything back, you know. Or like, if you live in a city, you gotta contribute to the city somehow, you know. It's a give and take, you know. And a lot of artists, they are contributing to the city, whether they're doing murals or doing art shows. Like, that's contributing to the culture. Like, the things that happen in the tech world are on a computer or a phone. I don't really see apps as being culturally relevant, you know, as much as I'm sure they'd like to say they are. I feel like they're making us be more introverted under the guise of connecting people and making communication easier. It's interesting now how it's like, you know, people, you know, there's two types of people: the people that answer the phone and the people that don't answer the phone. But everyone's glued to their fucking phones all the time, you know?
Yeah.
People don't answer the phone, but people will just they'd rather communicate with people, strangers on the internet, over their friends. And that's what I feel like tech is, you know, playing a big part in, making people feel like they're connected, but they're not.
And that you feel, because so many of those people have moved to San Francisco, it's kind of just shitted on the city a bit, because a city has to do with life and culture and kind of
communication,
physicality, and real
community.
Yeah, community, exactly.
Yeah.
You want to live in a place where you actually feel like you live in a community, not a bunch of people on isolated applications.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I just don't know how to interact with them, you know? They're not very social. I feel like a lot of them are socially inept or introverted, and that's okay, you know, but it's just...
Yeah, that's also just a part of so much socialization, I'm doing in air quotes, going down on your phone. Like, that's not fucking socialization. I actually read somewhere that, like, Instagram and social media is not social. It's just like it's just like presentation. You're
It's-
just like giving a presentation. It's
an
like exhibitionism.
Yeah, it's an ego trip too. You know, it's like I don't know, it's a cop out. You know, you're not engaging with people in real life, and that's what life's about: real human interactions. And social media is the complete opposite of that. But it's funny how it's called social media. You know, you're being social, but I don't consider being social. You know, if you're not in flesh and blood in front of someone, you're not being social. You know, maybe there's a scale of being social that's very low on the scale. You know,
it's very low on the scale. I agree.
There's no vibe. You can't. That's what I'm saying. There's no. Humans are based on vibrations. You know, like we're vibrating. You know, it's like you meet someone and then instantly you either like them or you don't like them. You know instantly when you're in a room with someone, and that's based on their vibe. And you don't get that from the internet, dude. You get what people portray, and no one's going to portray their real self on the internet. They're going to portray. It's like you're advertising a glamorized version of yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like I don't want to be a part of that, you know?
Yeah. Well, in terms of art, you know, there's AI art that's kind of coming out now, and kind of just auto-generated things that a computer makes based off of an idea that you feed into it, is my understanding of it. There's different opinions on that, and one of the opinions is that it's actually going to make traditional art, handmade art, more valuable because of like the amount of the two that will exist. What do you think about that? And have you ever been interested in using it?
I've been using AI for writing. Like, I feel like it's fun. It's been fun for me to use it, and it's like a advanced form of the internet, you know, where like I like making lists and stuff. And the other day I was writing some stuff for the book, and then I've been using this song by Ricky Nelson, Travelin Man. You know that song? I'm a traveling man, made a lot of stops all over the world. That song, and I just asked the AI. I was like, write me a list of famous people that have died in plane crashes, and it wrote me, in a second, it wrote me a list of 20 people that died in plane crashes, and Ricky Nelson died on a fucking plane crash. I thought that was interesting. It's cool to write. To use it to write. I mean, I haven't used it for art generated stuff, but I feel like when you look at that stuff, you instantly know it's AI generated. You know, it's kind of corny, like it's like computer art, you know. But it's like being able to tell the difference is probably going to become harder and harder. But I agree. I think it's going to inflate the value of human-made art, like handmade art, and that's a positive side of it. But it's also just going to be another dilution of humanity, I feel like, you know?
I genuinely think that just like graffiti will go to its climax and then shit to bed when, for whatever reason, whether people think it's corny or people let it go or the government or society is like, fuck that, we're going to put a crackdown, we're going to raid all these houses, we're going to do A, B, and C. I don't even know the means of how it would happen, but I straight up think that will happen with all this shit, because it's getting too much, and pretty much it's almost like a universal opinion that people are not that much of a fan of this. Like everyone I've spoken to, they're not the biggest fan of this like lack of human interaction, this like extreme level of social media, because I think social media can be ill, and I think that there are parts of it that are sick. You and I connected through that, connected to a bunch of people through that. You can be your own author, which is a bad thing and a good thing, but as an artist, that can be a really good thing.
Yeah.
You can portray yourself and have your portfolio right then and there for everyone to see, and that's empowered people to a high level. But the other parts of it, they kind of just straight up lead to crazy amounts of mental health problems and depression and comparison and whatever, staying in your house, not leaving, not knowing how to deal with people, not knowing how to deal with real situations. Nobody likes that shit. I don't think anyone likes that shit. And I think that eventually, because you said something about how like the people who I guess started the style writing that we know today, they're like dying now. And I was like, damn, like graffiti is such a new thing.
It is. It's
an
great.
Extremely new thing. Well, style writing is a new thing, and so then imagine social. We don't even know what it's going to turn into. We have no idea what it's going to turn into. No. And I was thinking about that right now in terms of social media. It's like we have no idea what it's going to turn into. If graffiti is new, like social media is even knew
It's
it.
10 years old, dude.
That's ridiculous.
You know, like I was thinking about this the other day, like what is next? You know, like what's next? What's the new form of addiction going to be for us in terms of digital addictions? You know, like social media is like digital heroin, dude.
Yeah, 100%.
It's insane.
But there comes a point where, like, I feel like I was on your Instagram in preparation for this, and I think your first post, could be wrong, but I believe it was in like 2012, something like that. It's quite a while ago. I don't really remember the year Instagram started, but it must have been around there.
It was right then. I remember I still had a flip phone, and Amuse was the one who was like, "Yo, you need to get Instagram. You know what I mean? You need this. Like people like or people like your graph and shit, and like you need one." I was like, "I don't have a flip phone. I don't have a smartphone yet." He's like, "I'll make it for you." He actually made.
Oh shit.
You know, he was the one that like posted all the shit for me in the beginning, and then he was like, I got a smartphone. He was like, I'm not doing this shit for you anymore. And I was like, all right, you know, and like I started, you know, evolving or like keeping up with society. But I feel like, yeah, if you don't have Instagram or social media or whatever, if you're not on the internet anymore as an artist, you're not as relevant as you could be, or you might not even be relevant.
How can you even?
You can't. I
just make paintings or make whatever you make inside of your studio or house, and then you don't show them to anyone. How would you be?
There's no way. There's no way, dude. Unless you have an agent that's doing it all for you, and you're just.
Makes me wonder, how were people known before? That's crazy.
Word of mouth, dude. Humans, like interactions, vibes. You know, like that's how everything started. It's all about who you know. You know, and that's how it is now. It's like, who are you friends with on the internet?
Yeah.
You know, who follows you?
And the scary shit is that, like, the people who are designing these apps, well, for one, the whole thing of like the app is designed to make you use it as much as you possibly can.
And they don't use it.
They probably don't use it.
No, I've read hella shit on all these tech people. Their family is not, their kids are not allowed to use it because they know how fucking evil it is.
Wow.
They got us by the balls, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I was talking to the homie, the manager at RVCA, the homie Dylan, or I was like, how would we promote this show without the internet? You know, like I remember having art shows before social media, internet was a thing. It's like, you know, I was going to coffee shops or, you know, clothing stores and like putting up flyers and handing out flyers and like putting up posters and like talking. I was talking to everybody. I'd be at a bar with flyers in my back pocket, handing them out. Like that's how it happened, you know. And it, you know, people talk, so it's like shit spreads. But like, it's like if you imagine how quick gossip happens just in word of mouth, like amplify that by 1 billion on the internet, you know, like that's what it is. The internet is just gossiping, you know, or social media is like a new form of gossip.
Yeah, it's news.
Yeah, and it's like preying on our biggest weakness, our ego, you know, that's what it's doing. And it's like that's what they did. They figured out a way to tap into our biggest weakness and use it against us.
How do you use it now?
I try to use it as just a marketing platform. You know, that's basically what it is. It's advertisement. You know, that's what they're doing. They're taking all of our data, flipping it, and then trying to sell us shit, which is fucking, if you think about it, it's so fucked, you know? They're making money off of it, and we're just getting...
No, they're literally taking our data and then flipping and trying to sell us shit. That's wild.
Yeah, that's what's happening every day, and we're participating for free. You know, and like that's, if you really think about it like that, like we're just suckers, you know, we're being played. But that's why I said they got us by the balls. You can't not play the game. Like, how are you supposed to have anyone know about anything you're doing if you don't use? It's crazy how Mark Zuckerberg, whatever, Instagram has us all by the balls. One company has the entire world by the balls. You know, and if he were to shut down Instagram, hella fools would lose money. Everyone would lose money, you know?
What's crazy is that he didn't even start Instagram. Like, he bought that.
He bought it. Yeah.
That's what's even, yeah. Wow.
And he also, but he bought it and then turned it into a marketing platform and a data mining platform, you know, and like he turned it into what it is today. He got rid of the original algorithm or whatever. Like, it used to just be like for photographers, right? That's what it was. It was like
filters, all that
like
shit.
the photo sharing.
Flickr.
It was like Flickr or Photo Bucket, you know, like, and it turned into a beast, turned into a monster, you know, and now it owns all of us, you know.
No, it's like if you're a business, you need. If you're an artist, you need. If you're a celebrity, you need.
Yeah.
If you're straight up anything, if you're a media company, you need. If you're a restaurant, you need. If you're even just a person who wants to maintain some sort of understanding of what's going on in the world. What are you gonna do? Watch CNN? Like,
yeah,
you have to have an Instagram.
And then people think something happened to you if you're not posting shit. You know, like if you're not on the internet, posting some shit about your life for free. Someone's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm just not on the internet, man. I'm in some other country chilling with some random. You know, like I'm not trying to advertise this. You know, like
thinking about all this, like it must have been. I mean, I forget what year you did it, but it must have been a breath of fresh air. Just go to Taiwan and just like.
Well, I mean, when I went there didn't exist.
Okay, so it wasn't even anything.
No, I didn't even. Smartphones didn't even exist when I moved there. I was like, you know, just wandering around trying to learn the city. You know.
It's so interesting to think of doing some shit like that and not like, oh, look at my story. Look, I'm here. Oh, look, I'm here now. Oh, look, you're just straight doing it.
That's what the world was like for thousands of years, bro. Like that's a crazy concept to think how the world existed for thousands of years before this, and now people can't even imagine what it was like without it. You know?
Yeah.
It's crazy, dude.
So if it wasn't for, but in terms of it in your life, if it wasn't for using it as a marketing platform, it's not very relevant to you.
No, I'm not trying to like give away my social or my private life on the internet. I feel like I'm not gonna. You know, like if they're using me, I'm going to use it for what it's made for. You know.
Do you hold on to privacy in your life?
I try to as much as I can. You know, definitely.
It's something that you value.
Hell yeah, I think everyone should, because it's being like taken away from us systematically, piece by piece.
And it's something to consider, bro. Because honestly, I feel like there's a whole thing. It's like. It's just something to 100% consider, because everything happens, like I remember when Instagram first started, and I downloaded it probably right away, or like close to right away, within the year for sure. And change by change in the app, now it's a whole new application, but it was just so subtle that I didn't really, naturally subtle. Whether there was a plan, I don't know, whatever, doesn't really matter to me. What I'm saying is like. Upgrade by upgrade by upgrade by upgrade. Holy shit, this is a whole new thing with tons of new capabilities. And like I said, it's something that in my life has led to a lot of positives, as well as negatives.
Because you're probably using it the right way, you know?
I'm also using it as a media or marketing platform.
Yeah, that's the only way to use it.
And I used to be really, there was a point where I was like, okay, now I have to stop using this, like, for real. This was like before anything. Like, I just would use it personally. And I started noticing, I keep checking my phone.
Yeah.
Like, not because of anything, just out of straight, like, on some, like, tick shit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just, like, ticking and checking it. And,
an addiction.
Yeah, and I started, at this point in my life now, but because of the oversaturation of media that I have, it is so, now I actually barely use it. It's just, it's like once you hit your climax, it's over.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to start happening to people, at least like from my.
Yeah, you're tired of it, you know?
It's been like 8 whatever years. It's over now. Like, you don't want to use this shit anymore.
No, I feel like maybe there will be a renaissance of people your age and younger that are like, we want to know what the world was like without this shit controlling us, you know?
Do you think that Instagram is the one, meaning that, because we're saying social media, but then we're saying Instagram, we're kind of using the words interchangeably. Is there ever going to be another?
I mean, TikTok, right? TikTok, Facebook.
Yeah, but those don't have the same whole.
I think TikTok does, right?
Really?
I don't have a TikTok, but I know. I mean, aren't they trying to ban it in America because it's so powerful? You know, It's so powerful. Like, even not just like preying on our egos, but like. Political shit, like election fake news, like that's basically what the scariest part about it is, where it's like, I have so many people, they come up to you and they're like, oh, did you hear about this? And I'm like, bro, that's bullshit. Like, you saw someone on TikTok telling you some news, and they're just sitting there reading the news, and they're getting paid because they're reading some shit on the internet, so you don't have to go read it, and they might be attractive or charismatic or something, and like, that's how they're making. That's the thing that trips me out, where it's like, now kids think that, when someone says, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up, they could say, I want to be an influencer, where it's like, that's not shit, dude. You're not doing shit with your life if you're an influencer. You're on the internet with your face talking. telling jokes, being funny, being pretty, whatever. You know, like I was with my aunt the other day, and she was saying that she told me, she said, youth and beauty are not accomplishments. And that's what TikTok and Instagram is trying to tell people, that you can be quote unquote accomplishing something with your youth and your beauty, but those things fade, you know? So it's like having some kind of like something real in your life that you can do for money or for your sanity or whatever. It's like, that's something you should be seeking, not attention from strangers on the internet, you know? And it's crazy how that's actually something you could do to survive now, is be on the internet talking. And you're just some random person from fucking Oklahoma who's hot or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And like, it's gonna create a whole generation of fucking losers in a weird way, you know? Where it's like,
what are you genuinely doing?
Yeah, if you took the internet away from them or their phone, like, they would have no skills. They would have no personality. They would just be, you know, who are you without the internet? That's a question that a lot of people need to ask themselves, you know?
Yeah, I can't imagine what the next, I guess, era is going to be like, or the next generation.
I think it's going to
grow up with this.
It's going to be some like AI social media fusion world, or virtual reality, you know? Like, have you ever read that book, Ready Player One?
No.
They made a movie about it, but the book's really good. Yeah, it talks about, you know, in the future the world's dying and they created this virtual reality world called the Oasis, and you can be anyone you want to be. You can be a comic book character, you can be anything, and you can have anything. So people would prefer to live in that reality than the real reality, while the real reality is crumbling, you know? And like, I think that's what's going to happen, dude. People would rather just not pay attention to it and live in a different reality than this, because this reality is like, life's hard, you know? Mm-hmm. But if you're in a world where you get to do whatever you want, life doesn't seem as hard until you take the goggles off or whatever, you know?
Well, unless you have anything else to say, thank you so much for doing this.
For sure.
Super hyped you were able to make it happen, and for real, thank you.
For sure, no problem. Thanks for having me on the show.
Peace.
Later.